So before we move any further, I need to insert a quick explanation here about the properties window or properties palette, because it kind of permeates almost everything you do in AutoCAD. You can get a lot of information about objects and modifying them through the properties window. So I'm going to close it for now. To get to your properties window, one of the easiest ways is PR. I believe there's a couple other ways to get to it. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but PR or typing in properties, or going to, I think, view. It's somewhere in here. I can't remember exactly. Or actually, it might be under, yeah, it's under one of these palettes. But just, I've always, easiest way, type in PR. It's 2 letters, no big deal. Brings up your properties window. It may be undocked the first time you bring it up. It can be resized and moved around like other palettes. Just drag it from the left side. You can choose to auto hide it by clicking this icon here, and then when you're not on it, it should be turned on. There it is. It'll auto hide, and you can have it pop in and out, or just click it to keep it on. You can also anchor it to the side, which is what I typically do. And you can say anchor left or anchor right. I choose to anchor to the left. When you're on this bar on the side, you can right click inside the gray area of the bar and choose icons only or text only. You can actually go back on top of the bars as well. So if you like using the bars, you can do that for your XREF and your properties and whatever else you want to anchor here. Or you can do icons. I've just had a habit of using icons, but that's just me. Okay. For the sake of explanation, I'm going to leave this open so we can see what's going on here. When you don't have anything selected, I'm going to turn my auto hide off so it stays open. When you don't have anything selected, what you see is generic information about your drawing. But you're really never going to need to access this much. What you're really going to want to focus on is what kind of information that you can glean from the objects in your drawing. Anytime you select an object, the properties menu will show you what you have selected and it'll show you information about that object, a lot of which can be changed. Right now I have a polyline selected, and so it's showing me information about this polyline. If I select a dimension, it's going to show me a dimension, which it calls a rotated dimension. And I see all the information here related to the dimension, and dimensions happen to have a lot of information. A lot of the stuff you would normally specify in the dimension style shows up here, which is why this is so long, because there's a lot of things you can do to tweak how a dimension looks. My text shows up as text. If you have mtext, which is multi-line text, it shows up as an mtext object, and there's different options for mtext versus regular text. If you have objects of multiple types selected, you're going to get this where it says all. And you have a couple or a handful of options that you can modify that will affect everything. Like I can set the color for every object to green, or every object that I'm allowed to change, or the layer, and so on and so forth. I can also click this and I get a drop-down list which shows me how many of each type of object I have selected. And if I click one of these, I can kind of filter out just that. So now I just have the 12 dimensions selected, or I just have the one mtext object selected, and whatnot. So that's selecting your objects, and the information you can glean from them. You also have a couple other options that can get kind of in depth, especially when it comes to like the quick select. I guess I can choose like this and say, this, and then just choose that, or whatever I need. It's kind of like goofy. There's no reason to use select, and pick add is a whole different variable that beginners don't need to know. So it's about how you add things to your selection, but we'll get to that later maybe. And then quick select is a whole other window that has, like I said, its own explanation. So, all right, what can you modify? Well, let's see. Let's say I select a polyline, which is fairly simple. I can select the global width and modify that. Right now it's 0. Maybe I want to change it to, I don't know, 1/4 inch. I got a thick, huge, bold line. I can change this back to 0. I can modify vertexes. I can pick which vertex I want to edit. I can change the layer, the color of the layer, the line type off from here if I want to do that. If I want to change this to like a dashed line type, I can do that. My line type scale is pretty large right now, so it looks kind of silly, but and If I want to choose a dimension, say I want this particular dimension, I can choose again color, layer, the tick style on the end. Maybe I don't want it architectural. I want to go closed, and so it changes it to this arrow. And then a bunch of other options that I could choose. So you'll see in other videos that I do that I bring up the properties menu often, and I will modify things from the properties menu. I just wanted you to know how to access it and what to expect when you get to it. A lot of the stuff is self-explanatory as far as like what kind of properties you can modify, or at least see. Like this one shows me the angle and the length and whatnot. Some things you may need to play around with because you won't know exactly. Like I said, you click a dimension, there's a lot of information here. You won't know exactly what's going on with every single thing unless you're familiar with all of these variables in the dim style as well. So, but at least you have understanding of the properties menu, how to access it, and get to it in the future. When I do make references to it and whatnot.